Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. There's nothing wrong with your video, although right now it looks slightly askew because my Borderland title card there didn't cover the whole screen. But welcome again. It's time to talk about To the Outer Limits. John Suntra's here with a great group of talkers, a lot of returning champions. We got, of course, our co-host Gabe Hardman. Good to see you, Gabe, who dressed for the occasion.
As always. I mean, I honestly don't know why every other person coming on here is letting me down. I know you're guests, and I should be more polite than that. But come on.
Well, at least I'm all in black. I've got my umpire uniform on.
I didn't get the memo. I'll up my game next time.
All right, sure.
There you go. In Peach, it's Andy Parks. Good to see you, Andy.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Absolutely. Ian Brill, always welcome. Welcome back, my man.
Great to be here.
And an accomplished filmmaker and novelist and a guy that made my excellent intro that I use for my Word Balloon videos where a great montage of superhero animation. It's William Meyer, everybody. Good to see you, William.
Hey, thanks for allowing me.
Welcome back.
Hey,
I crashed the party.
Before we, not at all, man. Seriously, and I meant to invite you sooner. I'm glad you're joining us. I want to scroll through and I'm going to find this awesome fan mail from some flounder, as Bo Winkle would say, that we got today. I'm scrolling. I get so many emails. Here it is. This is from Martin Noro. And he says, Dear John.
He's good. I like him.
Do you know this guy?
No.
All right. Thank you. Dear John, recently discovered your video podcast featuring discussions on the original Outer Limits, and I'm very much enjoying the shows. I grew up on the Outer Limits, and still to this day, I consider it my all-time favorite series. There's something about this series that has always spoken to me. Wonderful, thoughtful storytelling, great camera work, and the incredible music from Dominic Frontier. Yes, I purchased all the pre-recorded VHS tapes and the 2 DVD box sets, and from time to time, she'll pull out an episode or two. Of course, we do have to consider that the show came out at a time where there were only 3 or 4 stations available, and that television viewing was a family affair. I was 4 or 5 years old when I saw first The Galaxy Being, and to be honest, it scared the living bejesus out of me as a kid. I look forward to viewing your future episodes. Please keep up the wonderful work and stay safe. Sincerely, Marty. Well, Marty, Jesus, that was incredibly nice.
Yeah, thanks, Marty. Wait, that was Martin Odell, the creator of the original Green Lantern?
Yes, it was Martin Odell. Oh, if only.
He signed it with a Zet.
Did we all have a chance to meet Martin Odell before he passed?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody who went to it.
Marty and Carrie.
Yes, his wife, Carrie, absolutely. And it was so sad. I started doing Word Balloon after Carrie passed away, and I asked him to come on. And he's like, since Carrie died, I still do the cons because my kids insist on it, and it feels good. He goes, I just don't have the fun that I do since Carrie left. And I'm like, no, I get it, man. So, sweetheart of a guy.
All right.
Favorite thing about My favorite thing about Marty was that he made the circuit as the Green Lantern creator for a while. And when that started to ebb, he suddenly remembered that he was the creator of the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yep.
And so he had a whole other thing all of a sudden.
100%, man. One of those great men of Leo Burnett, the famous advertising agency of Chicago. And that in a lot of ways, unless you're in the business, silently just created all these iconic images as this powerhouse of advertising. I mean, the Coast had its beat on film and television, but when it came to advertising, Chicago was a major hub producing a lot of important advertising. So, yeah. There you go, Martin Odell, and our own Marty, who's our Limits fan. And we appreciate the email, Marty. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. So the Borderland. We have so much to say about the Borderland, right?
Woo.
Really.
Did you ever see that? This, and forgive me because it does tie into the Borderland. There's a great episode of Stargate SG-1, and Richard Anderson's character O'Neill would classically get the science wrong, and he's like, "No, I got this. It's all about magnets." And everybody looked at him like, "No, it's really not about magnets." Like, all right, you explain what's going on, and that's essentially what this episode was, including the intro, where they do that great stock footage of going through the metal filings with a magnet and just showing that magic of reverse magnetism, which I mean,
it's about magnets until it's not, like, I mean, so this is a Leslie Stevens written and directed episode, the first one we've had since the Galaxy Being. This is a little less auspicious than the Galaxy Being. This was also the first episode. I think I said this about another one, and maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm wrong now, but I believe this is the first regular series episode that they shot. After the pilot, and so obviously, considering we're on episode 12, they didn't feel as confident about this one and pushed it back. I mean, partly that was ABC because they didn't like it that there was no bear in it. There was no monster to show off.
True.
And but it's not exactly a scintillating episode. Although I do like the opening. I like the setup. I always remember the thing where he has the reversed hand, the reversed left hand, and
I got that. Hold on.
Which I think is neat. I like that. I mean, it's like I always think, oh, that's interesting. That goes someplace. It doesn't. It really doesn't.
They really made a point of not showing that hand after that dinner table, too.
Yeah.
They missed a trick, if I could just jump ahead for a second.
Yeah.
Right near the end, before he goes in, he touches her face. And it should have been the other hand. It should have been the reversed hand.
Right.
Just throwing that out.
You're not wrong, man. Yeah, we open with that awesome seance and the scientist pitching. Yeah, man. Forget about the spirit world. Let's work on magnets.
Why the scientists are participating in the seance at all in order to just be there to pitch their idea when they when they undermine the seance business,
medium,
but like I don't quite understand that, but at the same time I think it's kind of a neat setup. At least it's it has these kind of conflicting ideas and stuff. There's someplace they could have gone with it.
The medium, the way she was dressed with the black veil and stuff like that, I swear to God, I thought it was my Greek Orthodox grandmother. Like, I'm like, what the hell's a Greek lady doing? Like, oh, it's a medium.
I feel like, considering they are seance busting skeptics, I feel like this is the moment where we could acknowledge the death of James Randi, though. And
this is true. This week it was very sad indeed. The amazing Randi. Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I think the most interesting thing about this episode is the actors and the performances.
Yeah.
And Gladys Cooper is a legit. She's in a lot of amazing stuff from the 40s.
Yeah, she actually she started in silence. She was like in she was
the old lady, yeah,
in British silence, and she was in Rebecca, the Hitchcock Rebecca.
Yeah.
And now Voyager, and she's in The Pirate, that weird Gene Kelly
with Judy Garland. Yeah. Love that movie.
but like, yeah, and I mean, like, yeah, certainly the casting is good. I wish they had better material. I mean, I feel like this episode ends up, like after the setup, the majority of it is, them on a soundstage with stock footage of generators and and just staring at visual effects, right? Like it could really be a modern movie, right? Because they're just standing around and staring at visual effects, and it's about that.
Not very flattering to old Peter Mark there. John.
Yeah, nice gum shot. I agree. Yes, indeed. So, and
by the way, that man is still kicking. He's like
really?
93 years old.
Yeah. I've been doing this thing where I've been trying to go through these and see if I can figure out how to contact still living people from the Outer Limits.
Oh, that'd be great.
We could somehow get interviews with them. I was not able to do it with Peter Mark Richmond. I mean, and here's the fact that 99% of the people involved with this are dead makes this whole endeavor a little daunting. But but like there are a couple of people. I met Sally Kellerman on Facebook. I mean, she's on there and she seems to respond to people and stuff. Maybe she'll come through.
I should ask my buddy Brian Peck, who does voiceover stuff with Ed Asner and really does know him. I don't know how comfortable he'd be to ask him to do something like this, but I'll reach out to him and ask him.
Maybe a contact or something like that.
I know his son through the charity. I could put out a feeler there, maybe.
So that, I mean, something like that. This is probably we're having a production meeting right now.
But it's that kind of, honestly, it's that kind of episode. And also, Andy hasn't been on in a few weeks, so I kind of figured Andy can. And again, Andy, there's no pressure to have watched the episodes that you haven't commented on.
I have not. I hate to say.
That's all right,
I was fighting an inking deadline, a horrible thing that I'm going to avoid for quite a while now, but. Yeah, I was kind of lost to the world there for a while.
No problem. Well, and also in contrast to this very ordinary episode that unfortunately Leslie Stevens made, and I agree with you, Gabe, it's likely that, it was made early and buried in the weekly schedule this way, as a lot of shows will do that. But yeah, in contrast to the high-minded ones that we've had, this thing, it's they relied on a lot of set stuff. Yeah. And, I guess the mysteries of electricity.
Gabe, I wanted to ask you something about the production. So they're shooting in this large stage, and it's pretty impressive. They got all these banks. Thank you. Perfect. Mm-hmm. So it's a really big space, and they filled it up nicely with cool equipment. And then, like you said, we have these stock footage of these generators, whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
But there's also a little rear projection, I guess, at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Behind that horrible villainous duo standing up there on the catwalk, just being
evil seance people. Yeah.
I mean, and that was just so awkward. I mean, like,
it's terrible. I felt for that guy. Do you think he gave his character a stutter just so he'd have something to do?
I think so. Yeah. The fact that you're always in trouble when you introduce a couple of characters and have them come in and stand around for 3/4 of the story,
Stand around and argue. Should I do that thing? No, don't do the thing. No, I'm going to do the thing. Yeah, I don't think you should.
They stand around on a catwalk and look down at our main characters who are standing around for the entire story.
They're watching characters who are already just watching effects. The only thing worse than watching effects are watching characters. Watching characters watch effects.
I will say I thought it was interesting that that pair were charlatans and they were acknowledged as such in the opening seance, and yet they believed this science experiment could contact another world. They were still invested in it and wanted to stop it from happening because they thought that was their domain that science was now entering into. So I thought that was an interesting nuance.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. I think that there are, even if it's a little broad and a little heavy-handed or whatever, I think that there is good stuff to mine about this collision of these kind of charlatan spiritualists and, but maybe there's a further thing that, either they could exploit, or that or really believe in, or whatever. I mean, I think that that it's kind of, I think it's a missed opportunity. I mean, it's it's kind of, I would say that it's goofy, but it's not. It's mostly pretty dry, and it feels like whereas I do feel like it had a big idea, it just wasn't able to express it or dramatize it. Yeah. They weren't able to give us characters who had a drama and a thing to be involved in, so that we could then kind of appreciate the apparent bigger ideas, or that they could express those bigger ideas in a dramatic way instead of a standing and staring sort of way.
Yeah. There's
I noticed something.
Go ahead.
Do you guys who've been watching every one, it seems like every episode I've seen, they insist upon, kind of like in Star Trek, the Enterprise always had to be in danger. Here, there seems to be a need for a romance. There's got to be some key romantic thing that's on the precipice there. Has every episode had a romance of some kind?
Not necessarily, but
okay.
I mean, but it is, kind of a. I mean, especially if you're putting. I'm sure that their reasoning was that there's, this is a pretty, cold, allegedly cerebral, subject, and that was the way that we were somehow going to get the emotional quality, and we were going to be invested in it. But I don't think, but it didn't really do anything. It was just people making pronouncements. She's making pronouncements that he's a genius and that she loves him or whatever. But we don't see that. We don't have the investment in it.
Right.
I thought it was.
Go ahead, William. Excuse me.
Oh, no. I thought it was funny that the wrap-up voiceover emphasized the power of love as the constant.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of had that weird mirroring of the scientist couple who are happily reunited. And then the father and the son, in a sense, reunited through annihilation. Like the guy was just disintegrated. And the voiceover is like, well, love is great, isn't it? And it was love that drew him to jump into the Borderland, if you will.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, we don't know what he found over there, do we? Though, well, except that he turned into a skeleton.
Right.
But which is not a promising, thing. I don't know, but like you never know.
Go ahead, Gabe, because I just
want to say that the one, despite the fact that I'm running this down and talking about just looking at visual effects, the visual effects by Byron Haskin, the kind of optical effects are kind of cool, and they're I mean, for the time, I think that they're kind of interesting and crazy looking, and certainly I never don't love it when somebody turns into a skeleton and then disappears. Like I thought that part was fantastic.
I just wanted to point out the waist of Mina Falk, because she's a great. Honestly, she's one of my favorite character actors over the years. Yeah, and from American in Paris and other great big budget movies she's made. And I mean, I'm really glad. In fact, in August, Turner Classic Movies, during their Summer of Stars in August, even like had a Nina Falk Day.
Yeah,
and it's like, I forgot how many great movies Nina Falk was in, and obviously continued to work a lot. Christ, I even think she worked on radio, on the CBS Radio Mystery Theater in the 70s and 80s in her elder years.
Well, looks like she had a job on The Closer the year before she died in 2007.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. She also, a good movie that she's in that's not as much a big budget one, but My Name is Julia Ross. It's a Joseph H. Lewis movie, who directed Gun Crazy, and it's a sort of it's a low budget, sort of contained, Gaslight-ish sort of enforced mistaken identity sort of movie, but it's it's usually lumped in with noir, and it sort of is. It's sort of a thriller, it's a bottle thriller sort of.
Yeah, and she was always an icy blonde when she was young, and then but then like the other big budget movies like Ten Commandments and Spartacus and things like that. No, I mean really, and Andy, like you said, her closer role was the last thing, and she made it to 84. And goddamn, man, no, the lady was always working. TV and films.
Great career, yeah.
I'm looking at a picture of her. She got to act with Lugosi doing Dracula.
Oh yeah, in what?
The Return of the Vampire. So
in
43. Right. So he may not be Dracula, but he's certainly a vampire.
That's so funny. last week they showed the 35 movie Mark of the Vampire, the MGM film that is all but in name a sequel to Dracula because Freaks, Todd Browning.
Yeah,
Todd Browning. Yeah.
Todd Browning directed that. Lionel Barrymore's in it, and it's literally like 4 years after Dracula, and it's I think the second best vampire movie Lugosi made too, for a Halloween tangent, if you will. So, what else to say about this one?
Gene Raymond's one of the other actors in it. He's a guy that I know mostly from the pre-code movies that he was in, the early '30s movies like Red Dusk and Flying Down to Rio, and he's also in this movie Sadie McKee. He has a big part in this movie Sadie McKee with Joan Crawford that I actually saw pretty recently. And I saw it recently, and then it just popped up on the Criterion Channel as part of their Joan Crawford series, and highly recommended. It's a really entertaining movie, and he's good in it, and he played kind of the sidekick type guy in this. But,
he was quite a looker when he was young, but I like him more in this slightly weathered phase of his career.
Yeah, but he was in pre-code movies, which is that's better. That means because there's much more sexual innuendo in pre-code movies than there is in the 1960s.
So the poor bastard who plays the stuttering plot device. I was like, oh God, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know the guy. He's in the first Star Trek that ever aired.
Yeah,
the Cult Empire.
Man,
very memorable in it. Yeah.
Written by George Clayton Johnson.
Yes, who
Amanda
John introduced me to. Yeah.
Yeah, we were in San Diego. We got to do a Star Trek tangent for a moment, and also George Clayton Johnson. So he was like literally, it might have been his last San Diego, and he was on this great panel, and he was a beatnik. He was an old beatnik from the 50s.
It's hilarious.
Brilliant writer. Co-wrote with William Nolan.
Logan's Run.
Logan's Run, thank you. Wrote the original story of Ocean's 11 that Peter Lawford optioned and made into the original movie. What a career.
When you came up to my table and you said, he's over at this panel, and I went, wait a minute, I know that name. And I looked on my phone and that guy wrote Kick the Can, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah.
So we ran over and it was a little pushy of us, I think, but
totally
just coming off his panel, and John and I just went over, and his son was kind of ushering away, and we just said, hey, big fans, and I got a photo with him.
Yeah, I was too embarrassed. I was too fat. I'm like, I don't want to take a picture of me. Like
200 years old. He had this long white beard and this funny straw hat.
And Andy and I are in our 40s, and he's like, "Hi, boys. Nice to meet you, boys." And we're like, "Yeah, we're boys. We're in our 40s. Sure, we are." But it was so awesome. It was so great because I'm like, Andy, you don't know this guy's name, but you know a million things that he did, and we gotta meet him. And he's like, "Yeah, we gotta meet him."
That's a great memory. I'm grateful for that, John.
Yeah, buddy. I swear. No, it's like when the one time I met Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen at San Diego in my first San Diego, and they were just walking the floor. They were just walking the main floor. People would come up and say hello, and they were really kind. And I'm like, just want to shake your hands, guys. Oh, my pleasure. How you doing? Absolutely. And I'm like, big fan of both of you. Very important to my childhood. Thank you for everything you did.
That's a nexus in time.
John, I just found the photo, so I'm going to send this to you on Twitter Messenger.
Okay.
The
your photo with Clayton Johnson. That'd be great, buddy. Yeah, please.
I don't know if this is too pedantic for what you guys are looking for, but my ears perked up when they started talking about the fourth dimension.
Yeah.
And I did a modicum of research here because, in my view, I took the story as they, in the realm of the story, they were the first to discover the fourth dimension as they were delineating it to the millionaire. And I thought that was interesting because so the show came out in 1963, and I thought there wasn't anything in the episode to contradict, right, that was the year that the story was set in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think the notion of the fourth dimension, so what I'm getting at is, and stop me if you don't want me to go down this route, but I thought it was very interesting.
You do.
The fourth dimension, in 1754, there was a book published called Dimensions. And in 1854, 100 years later, and this is in our world now, they started exploring this notion of what could exist beyond, X, Y, and Z, length, width, and height. And it wasn't until 1880 that it was popularized. And all this brings me around to a novel that I really like, that I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have read, Flatland.
Sure.
Which came out in 1884 by Edwin Abbott. And that's about a square, a two-dimensional entity encountering a third dimension. And in this story, they're three-dimensional beings encountering a fourth dimension. And granted, it's a lot of pseudo-nonsense, but in a fun way, I think. And I just wanted to tangentially bring up that Flatland, there's a cartoon version with Dudley Moore, and you can find it on Canopy. That came out in '65, and it's 11 minutes long, and it's a condensed version of the novel.
Oh, wow.
But as someone, and that someone is me, who's fascinated by the concept of beings existing in other dimensions, and I thought, this episode tangentially, no pun intended, kind of connected with, the notion, especially at the end when we actually see the Borderland.
Yeah.
And it's an empty wasteland, which is an existential crisis. So that's my take there.
The one problem with this whole fourth dimension idea is that here we go.
There's George Clayton Johnson, everybody.
There we go.
And yeah, that literally was like a year before he passed away. So about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, Andy, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We're seeing everybody's DMs here.
Yeah.
There's nothing privileged in it. There's no Jeffrey Toobin moment in there. Don't worry about it.
The one thing about the fourth dimension, though, is that the fourth dimension is time. This is like, this is like a very accepted concept, but whatever.
I thought that's where you're going, William, because they make a big point of that in the Rod Taylor Time Machine movie. Explaining the fourth dimension.
I was trying to trace, and I failed, but I was trying to trace in our world where we stopped looking as the fourth dimension as another spatial dimension and started thinking of it as a temporal dimension. But I ran out of time.
No, totally. No,
that was a good tangent, man.
It was actually an excellent tangent. It was.
Yes.
It's not even a tangent. It's related to the damn show.
Unlike my George Clayton Johnson.
I was going to say it's a lot more relevant than what John and I have been up to. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should talk about Peter Mark Richmond a little bit.
Please, because I love that guy. He's another character actor that I'm fascinated by when he pops up on stuff. So yes, I've got. I'll eventually get photos of Mr. Richmond. Here we go.
He's like a lot of the people from this era. He did a lot of live TV. He was also in. He had a supporting role in this movie, the Black Orchid, that Joseph Stefano wrote, the producer of this show. Probably one and also he is in this movie, The Agent of Harm, which is terrible, sort of.
Science Theater sent that up. I love that.
Yeah, there's an MST3K episode about it, but the funny thing about it is it was directed by Gerd Oswald, the main director of The Outer Limits, who directed the last episode.
It's a great throwaway '60s attempt at, I don't know if it was a backdoor pilot or if it was a real theatrical release.
It was a backdoor pilot.
Yeah, it looks very TV movie like.
With a TV director like that, I mean
that's true too. Yeah.
So this whole thing, you notice that he's not credited as Peter Mark Richmond in this,
right?
The way that he is later, and it's because in the late '60s and early '70s, he got into this kind of Eastern spiritual movement that was popular in LA at the time, and it was called, I don't know how you say it, Subud, Subud. It's something that's George Gurdjieff's followers made into like a big popular thing, and it was like, this is Los Angeles, like this is where everything like that happens. Like the entirety of the history of Los Angeles is about narrow religious sects coming here and being very popular. But when he and his wife joined this thing, and ended up part of it was that you needed to pick a new name that would better represent you than the name you were given. And, rather than picking Seagull or something, he picked Peter. So, for whatever reason, he decided that Peter represented him better. And so mid-career in 1971, he changed his name, from Mark Richmond to Peter Mark Richmond.
Wow.
He had a rich animation voiceover career, and I only pointed out because he was, and also was on Next Generation. He's on that episode of Next Generation when they find all the sleeper capsules of people from the 20th century.
Oh, yeah.
The Neutral Zone.
Where we
title.
where the Romulans come back, absolutely. But also, he played the Phantom, Kent Walker, in the Defenders of the Earth cartoon series.
Mm-hmm.
He also played. He did one episode of the Batman animated series, but then the Spider-Man Fox animated series of the 90s. I guess they had episodes of Peter Parker as an old man, and he played old Peter Parker and old Spider-Man. Then on the Superman animated series, he was Abin Sur, the original Green Lantern that gives the ring to in the Superman animated series. I believe he gives the ring to Kyle Rayner, and it's not Hal Jordan, to change things up a little bit. But even on Batman Beyond, and was working up until his last credit was 2016.
I think on the superhero tip, I think he would be, if they had made a Fantastic Four film at that time, he could have been Reed Richards.
Absolutely.
Like the austerity and even the shape of his head.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's what
Yeah, great.
I'm glad you said that. I'm fascinated by actors' faces and how it drives their career.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who has to play kind of smart, cynical something,
Right.
Totally.
You just can't look at him and think he's not a wise ass. In some way.
Some kind of asshole. Absolutely.
It's like escaping me right now, but I've always, for whatever reason, gotten him confused with the actor who plays Gary Seven in that Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
Robert Lansing. Robert Lansing. That's so funny you say that, Gabe, because Robert Lansing was on The Equalizer and was his intelligence, like spy master guy, Robert Lansing and stuff. And I thought that was Peter as well.
Yeah. So, okay, just one thing to kind of relate Mr. Richmond to another thing here that I always talk about, Stony Burke. Okay, the Stony Burke was the TV show that Robert Stevens produced before The Outer Limits. Not a rodeo guy played by Jack Lord. A rhodesian, a rodeo. I don't know what you call it. A guy who rides horses in a rodeo. And so he was actually in the last episode of Stony Burke.
Wow.
And that, which was actually, and that last episode was also, much like this one, was written and directed by Leslie Stevens. But unlike this episode, it's great. It has, themes. It is, it goes someplace. It's kind of like emotional and impactful. It's about like Jack Lord is, he's like badly hurt his hand. He doesn't want to admit that he can't, stay in the whatever. I've watched like all these episodes. I still don't understand anything about the rodeo, but he has to drop out of the rodeo thing, right? Late in the game, and a guy played by Mark Richmond kind of comes up to him, sleazy-ish kind of guy he plays a guy who goes around and just and picks out all the horses who are basically over, they can't ride anymore, and takes them to the glue factory, right? Mm. I'm not saying this episode is subtle, but it's still doing something in a way that the other ones, the Outer Limits wasn't. So he ends up enlisting Stony Burke, who is kind of, maybe he can't, ride anymore. And he has to take these horses off to the glue factory. And ultimately it becomes like a reckoning for Stony Burke, who, kind of rises up. He takes back the horses. He ends up freeing them all, and they all run off together. And that's the end of the series. So there is a kind of humanist arc to it that is entirely missing from this episode. But it's not like Leslie Stevens, along with Mark Richmond, couldn't do something that had worked and had a shape to it, and some characters, and was something more interesting. It just didn't work this time.
A handful of recurring characters he played. He played Chrissy's father, Reverend Snow, on Three's Company in several
Yeah, I
episodes.
saw that.
He was in Santa Barbara, the soap opera, as C.C. Capwell. I'm sure he was a very positive industrialist that wasn't screwing with anybody's lives. And then he was in Dynasty as Andrew Laird, another probably very good-willed character. So, yeah, there's some of his recurring characters that he played over the years. But I had completely forgotten that he was Suzanne Summers' father on Three's Company, because I will confess, as a young teenager, Three's Company had my attention.
Isn't he also one of those guys who's in like every 60s TV show
Yes.
for a guest spot?
70s and 80s as well. Yeah, man. He's in Matlock, the Fall Guy. I mean, literally, like, he's the bad guy of the week. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, he's another one of these guys who had, I mean, I think he had like one season series from the early 70s. And apart from that, I think he was all guest shots, all 1 or 2 episodes of, recurring roles or just one-off roles.
I'm trying to find it. He was also a voiceover guy in Greatest Heroes of the Bible. Did a lot of that. He was in a Wonder.
John, who were the greatest heroes of the Bible?
Yeah, I don't
Samson.
know. We got to ask Joe Kubert when he made that great Treasury edition of the Bible. I'm trying to find this TV show. He was on the FBI and several roles on the FBI.
Gabe, did you notice that he's another combat veteran?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wow.
TV show Combat, I mean.
I know. I was going to try to watch that, but I only have the first season of Combat.
It looks like he played both a German and an American in different episodes.
Outstanding. He was on Longstreet, the James Francisca show that essentially was Matt Murdock without the superhero identity. But he was like an adventurer, a blind adventurer, Longstreet.
Okay.
I remember that show as a kid.
Every lawyer show is Matt Murdock without a costume.
Well, blind lawyer. Blind lawyer.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, no, Franciscus was blind. I don't think he was a lawyer, but essentially, yeah, that was the whole deal. I think he was a former cop, and beautiful James Franciscus coming off of
Beneath the Planet.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Absolutely, man. Jesus.
He's also in, I think it's the penultimate Twilight Zone episode, the one where they meet the giant alien with one eye.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice one. Well, and of course, Naked City. He's in the first. The half-hour version of Naked City, he's the younger cop to Paul Burke, and is his partner, and so that's late 50s. Gabe, is Stony Burke? Is it a bootleg DVD? Is it a regular? Like, can people buy?
There's a real DVD set that has everything on it, and it's good quality. It would be nicer if it was a Blu-ray, but
Sure.
A good portion of it is shot by Conrad Hall. A lot of it looks amazing.
I've never seen a second of that. I should look into it.
What's that, William?
I said, speaking of cinematography, I heard Conrad Hall's name. I think I clearly enjoyed this episode more than anyone else here, which is fine. But I wrote down a shot that I really, really liked, and it really stood out to me. And I wonder if anyone here picked up on it as well. But right after the rat explodes,
yeah,
and he says, "Are you still going?" Which is a funny enough question at that point. But there's a shot of Hartley and Fraser, the professor and the millionaire dude, and they're in the same shot together, and we're looking at the professor, and it's like a ghostly reflection of Hartley. And I thought that was a nice little foreshadowing, because he's thinking they're going to reach the other side, the other world, ghostly existence. It was just that one shot, but as soon as it cut to it, I was like, oh, that's nice.
No, I totally agree, and I think that there's actually, I think there's a lot of interesting visuals and a lot of ideas that are trying to get across in it. I just don't think. I mean, I think that the fact that it's dramatically inert is the thing that makes that stuff not quite work. I mean, I'm not. I don't think it's a terrible episode. I just feel like it does. Once it sets up the central idea of it, it doesn't develop, and I'm all about developing, things developing, things going somewhere. I know these are radical ideas, but I feel like it's important.
Well,
I watched
John,
the episode last night, this night, right before this, and I asked myself what changed from the beginning to the end, and all I could think of is the millionaire dies, and Ian gets his left hand back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nothing happens to the two bad guys up in the rafters.
Right.
Didn't the charlatan? Didn't he?
I think
get
he got
electrocuted?
electrocuted. I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
so.
did he
Yeah.
get electrocuted? Okay.
That's not him. I was gonna say the DP on the episode was John M. Nicholas Jr.
Yeah. John
And-
Nichols. Yeah, he's the alternate DP for Conrad Hall.
Well, and he did some great shows that are among my favorite 70s shows. First of all, he did the Jim Hutton Ellery Queen show, which I love. I absolutely love that show. It's set in the 40s. It's Jim Hutton and David Wayne as Ellery Queen and Inspector Queen, and it's got a ton of guest stars. It's one of those Levinson and Link television shows like Columbo and Banachek and things like that. And it's so undervalued. They only made 20 episodes of it. I bought it. I love it so much. And then, and I'm sure you all remember this show fondly, the great Bill Bixby show from the 70s, pre-Hulk, The Magician.
No idea.
The crime-solving magician. That, oh my God, it's so bad. And it's so ridiculous. And literally would like stop gangs of criminals in like a great action scene with his giant sleight of hand like magicianry. It's ridiculous, but so much fun.
When you watch these shows, do you think, man, this is flatly lit? I wish Conrad Hall had shot this.
No, but I honestly, I do think, I do. I mean, Ellery Queen was in color, but I do think it's, I don't know, that show really did evoke.
I'm just, I think a nice job on this episode. I think it's good. I think it looked good.
So.
Gabe, thanks to you, I'm now debating whether I need to buy the Stony Burke.
I know, I've been thinking the same
set
thing these
on
last
eBay
12
for
weeks.
$29.
I know, I'm the same way, man.
Clearly, nobody's willing to go as deep in this bullshit as me. Like nobody's obsessed enough with the Outer Limits that they're then obsessed with Stony Burke, the rodeo show. But for me, the tendrils of the people involved make it interesting, and they're actually really good episodes, despite the fact that I know fuck all about rodeo.
No, but that's the thing. There were so many of these shows in the 60s that came and went that were quality shows. And I mean, honestly, I'm glad that, I mean, this is where I'm like, thank you to the bootleggers at the conventions. Because a lot of them, that's why I asked about Stony Burke, because a lot of those shows, nobody's ever going to make a DVD of these things.
Yeah.
And thank God these tapeworms came up with this stuff. Were you going to say something, William?
Yeah, Gabriel, do you know the distributor? Isn't that of Stony Burke? Isn't that
Of the DVD?
Yeah, because I think they have them streaming for free on their website.
It very well could, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Andy was just looking it up. Andy,
computers
what's the make, Andy?
I can't remember.
I'm struggling to find that.
If it's the same company that has The Prisoner and the Herzog films, I know they have free streaming on their site.
Huh.
Which I thought, because I looked it up when Gabriel brought it up on an earlier episode of this very podcast,
Cool.
and I could have sworn it was the same
You know
company.
what? And come to think of it, I always forget to look at YouTube. People put all kinds of shit on.
Oh,
YouTube.
Yeah, there are about maybe four episodes on YouTube. Like one or two of them are of a quality that you can actually like watch it. But there's one called the Weapons Man. That's a sort of backdoor pilot. It's very odd. There a whole giant section of it is shot at Yamashiro up on the hill in Hollywood, Japanese restaurant, and it's like if you want a sample of the Stony Burke of it all, just watch those couple of episodes from YouTube. That'll give you a sense of it.
Well, like I said, I mean, we were talking about Ed Asner, and he was on that Richard Crenna show, Slatterly's People. That was kind of a political, state-level West Wing sort of government politics kind of drama. And no, I'm fascinated, again, by these shows because I'll watch the interviews that all these, actors and writers and directors do on the Archive of American Television. And it's like, and Richard Crenna gives like 10 minutes about this show that he was very proud of that only lasted a season. And there's a million shows like that. So, yeah I like it.
Shout Factory.
Right. It may be.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I hope it is. Because, you're right about that, William. They do stream. Also, not only have it on their websites, but also, like, I know that's like one of the free channels on Pluto and things like that, as far as, the aggregator that puts together all the free streaming channels and stuff. So I love Tubi has been my best friend in the last like year or so, where I'll stumble on documentaries, foreign films, and schlocky, crappy TNA Cinemax movies from my childhood to the Dick Cavett episodes where they include the musical performances, unlike Decades, that the rights keeps them from, showing. Like, they'll show the interview with Jimi Hendrix, but you don't get the live performance, and Janis Joplin and Lennon and Yoko and the like.
Right.
So
A lot of great anime on Tube. If there's any Galaxy 999 fans watching.
that's awesome, man.
All right, great.
All right, so there we go. Any other thoughts on the Borderland?
I have one other thing. No, William, go first. Yeah, go first.
This is just a reference, but I loved when he would always shout reverse, and they were reversing the polarity, and it reminded me of the Third Doctor shouting reverse the polarity of the neutron
absolutely.
flow.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, that's one of the freakiest shots, John.
I know. I love this shot. That's why I brought it up.
And there's some great kind of like inventive visuals in it. It just doesn't. I just don't think the whole episode.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere as far as the story. Yeah,
I do think that there is, on some level, it is also a little. There's a little bit of Twin Peaks: The Return in this one as well as last week. There is. I mean, the opening thing with the box from where you're catching something from another dimension is very similar to this sort of.
Oh yeah.
But
has anyone got David Lynch on the record about Outer Limits? Has anyone said
David Lynch would never admit to anything. Like he doesn't admit that like he's ever seen a movie. He's not gonna He wants people to think it all sprang from his head or whatever. And it's fine, it's his shtick,
All right, quick David Lynch tangent. Before he got canceled, and rightfully so, that great 3-episode arc of Louie, the FX show. And David Lynch being the television producer that was helping him get ready to do late night.
Yes.
And Gabe, I was thinking of you, that great scene where his name's Jack Dahl. That's his character in the show. And he opens his desk drawer. And there's all this weird shit in there. And I have frozen the image to look at the various things that are in Jack Dahl's desk drawer. And that is so Twin Peaks. It's so fantastic.
That whole thing was amazing. That I mean, for me, that was worth the entire series.
Oh my God, he was hilarious. You're not doing it, kid. Timing.
Yeah.
So funny.
There's one more thing I want to add.
Please. Oh, what's he got?
I found this painting of Hugh Hefner.
Stand by.
Wow.
That I've had for years. But Karina, my wife, used to work at the mansion, and they sent this to Hugh Hefner, and then they threw it in the dumpster. She fished it out because she thought I would like it, and I've had it and been meaning to frame it for a while.
That is
featured here on the show.
That is fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
I thought it was going to be painted by someone in the episode.
No.
Apropos of nothing. That's quite all right. I liked it. That's awesome, Gabe. That's fantastic. Gabe, what's that over your shoulder? And I'm going to bring it back up again. The comic strip next to the movie poster behind you.
That is Noel Sickles, Scorchy Smith. That's probably one of the best pieces of art I have. Certainly.
I have the coffee table book that IDW produced of Sickles and Torchy Smith, and he is for the viewers that don't know, Terry and the Pirates, Kenneth, like Noel Sickles was his god, like his hero.
Yeah.
Maybe the best thing I own is a Sickles, but it's an illustration, not a comic strip.
Wow.
Illustrations are unfucking believable. I've flirted with buying one at times, and it was always when I couldn't afford it.
Jaken threatened to murder me to get mine, but he hasn't done it yet.
I remember, actually, when I bought that, it was at San Diego, and when we ended up, because we got our room through some scheme through the art directors guild, some bullshit, like as always. Like we were at the hotel that's like right across the street from it, and we were leaving, and like in the elevator, and I just have this thing with me, and the guy next to me is like, "Hey, is that a Noel Sickles?" And it was Ed Brubaker. That's where I met Ed Brubaker, in the elevator, because I had this thing with me, and we ended up talking and pretending like we were going to collaborate on something, and it never happened.
I love that,
John. I just sent you my Sickles if you're curious.
Oh, please, absolutely. All right, I will look that up. Stand by. There it is. Hold on. We will show. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. This reminds me exactly of, as I'm sure this was the booth that you guys got your stuff from. It was always in the corner, and it had so many great magazine illustrations.
Probably Mitch Ickowitz.
Probably. All right, here, let me show it. Oh my God, this is beautiful. Seriously, Andy, I'm so glad you sent this. Look at that, everybody. Holy shit.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
It's
That's
got so much
outstanding.
depth to it. Like it hangs in our hallway, and every time I go by, I'm like, "Whoa, Jesus!"
Oh, that's, and this is why I buy those great. Sorry, there we go. Once again.
Oh no, here comes my dick pic. My
Exactly.
Chris Hemsworth moment.
Yeah, thanks for sending that, Andy. That was fantastic that you did that. Definitely.
We should just have a special edition of it that's sort of an art tour, like.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
This is my
Honestly.
only piece of original art. It's a Jeff
Stand
Darrow.
by. That's hilarious. Yes, I've got doodles from Jeff like that. Absolutely,
Nice.
That's funny.
Great.
Very good. Andy, you have any original art that that's
I'm
handy?
actually going to get something, and this will be the most meta moment of the podcast, if you'll excuse
Excellent.
me. for a moment.
Sure, do it. I'll save it for next time. My
Gabe,
stuff
while
on
he's
the wall.
walking, I'm curious. You're a big Lynch devotee.
Yeah.
You're not by any chance a practitioner of meditation, are you?
I am not. I'm not he's a huge transcendental meditation guy, TM guy, and I think it's all bullshit. I don't have. It's fine for people who want to do it, but it's not me. I don't go into things.
I've tried to do it. I can't do it because everyone that loves doing it swears by it and everything.
I was really good at it for a while, and then 2020 set me so on edge that I can't.
I'm
do
not.
it as well as I used to, and it should be the opposite. I should be doing it now more than ever.
Yeah, I'm talking about like the Maharishi Yogi's transcendental meditation.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I don't. You're right.
Where you have to pay $2,000 to.
Yeah.
Right.
No, Seinfeld always says how simple it is, and he's like, God, that it replaced coffee for him in terms of waking him up in the morning and stuff like that.
Right.
Howard Stern talks about it all the time. And he does it every morning.
Yeah,
I do a 10-minute session. I don't do TM, but I did read Lynch's book about it, and he makes a fascinating argument about how it helps him dig deeper to the ideas that are not common, to the.
Yeah. I mean, and like I'm saying, I'm not knocking the idea of meditation.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't trust an organization like that.
Right.
I don't giving you.
We talked to your walk away. Now we're ready for you.
Whenever I've done meditation, it's always been great. I've never once thought I should pay $500 for this.
No.
Yeah,
But
no,
I really value this piece of art by one of my favorite artists, Mr. Gabriel Hardman, doing.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
This is some of the only Star Trek art he's ever done. This is for my 30th birthday, so I don't want to say
That is
how
fantastic.
long ago that was. But you can't find a lot of Star Trek by Gabe, but I've done some.
I can certainly next time. I won't take it off the wall right now, but show some of my Gabe Hardman art. Absolutely. Oh, here. Did Sickles illustrate on a particularly larger scale to get that level of detail to then reduce down for the strip panels? I assume you're talking about Andy's piece, and I'm guessing, Andy, that's a spot illustration from a magazine.
Yes,
story
and I would
something.
say it's about 14 inches wide, probably.
Yeah, and Ed, if you ever, when San Diego years from now resumes business as usual, can't recommend enough going to that one particular corner area where it's like a mini gallery. And it's
awesome.
just, oh my God.
Mitch has amazing stuff. And sometimes Bill Sienkiewicz is over there doing drawings, and it's a really cool place. So I have a cool Mitch Ickowitz story about buying a piece of art. I was walking by Mitch's table with Phil Hester, and I see this really nice piece of a guy in a study, and he's kind of looking at a book, and it's a very striking piece, and it's large. And I said, Mitch, who did that? And he said, oh, it's a flag. James Montgomery flag. And I said, oh, cool. It's too bad it's not signed. And he said, oh, it's signed. The person who matted it did a bad job. The signature's under. Oh, how much is it? And he said, it's $1,500. And I was like, no, I couldn't. And he goes, it's 12. I'd take 12. Well, I couldn't get that much cash. I'll take a card. Oh, it's kind of big to carry home. I'll ship it free. I was like, okay, I'm done. So it hangs in our living room today.
Oh, good.
And somewhere
That's
around
awesome.
then, somewhere around then, Hester said, "If you buy that, your kids are going to deciding what museum to donate it to when you're gone." And I was like, "Okay, shut up! I'm fucking buying it."
Am I conflating Pawn Star episodes because there's this beautiful portrait of John Barrymore that someone had, and I thought it was drawn by James Montgomery Flagg.
That's possible.
And then the store didn't end up buying it because they're like, what's left of the John Barrymore market. And I'm really surprised, given that it was a Flagg, that the art dealer and that Rick Harrison didn't see the value of a Flagg piece. I might be conflating. I don't remember.
I mean, I've never seen this show and I don't know anything about it, but I mean, I imagine that all of this stuff is sort of, niche, I mean, like knowing the value of a particular thing that, a fine art world versus a, commercial type stuff and vintage commercial type stuff. It's all different sort of niches.
But a lot of fine art does wind up on these shows, and it's very, and they do have high-end appraisers. I'm sorry?
Fine art, whatever.
Well, and even to the point where in recent seasons, he bought a space and created it for fine art, knowing that likely the guy that's walking in that wants a revolver isn't going to, give a shit about a James Flagg, piece or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I'm just saying,
yeah.
Illustration art is just a kind of different area. I mean, that's why those people at San Diego focus on that instead of whatever else.
Understood. All right, we're like we said. Now it's Gabe's favorite part of the show. It's like, we're not talking about the Outer Limits, so maybe we should just wrap up.
We didn't have anything else to talk about with the Outer Limits, so
we did good. I think
I have 2 pages of notes, guys.
Say, William comes to play.
Go for it.
No, well, we've kind of moved on from the textual. Let's see if there's anything quick. Probably not.
Do you want to look at my Robert Fawcett illustration though?
Oh,
Sure.
Jesus, I do.
It is back there.
Hey, I'll take a quick moment for those that are still watching and promote Baltimore Comic-Con Live that begins this weekend, and remind everybody about the incredible panels that we've lined up. Brian Bendis is talking to Jerry Conway about the characters they both worked on, like Superman and Spider-Man, comparing Brian's Avengers to Jerry's Justice League. Jerry was JLA Detroit, introducing all these new young members. Bendis certainly introduced a lot of unlikely Avengers during his run. We got the Kingdom Come voiceover theater, where Susan Eisenberg and George Newbern on Sunday night will be performing scenes from Kingdom Come, and Mark Waid will be narrating his own words. And I always say it's like watching Neil Simon watch an Odd Couple production. It's going to be great. Louise Simonson has a spotlight panel. Shelley Bond has a spotlight panel. We're talking to the Bitterroot guys. Shelley will be interviewing as editor of Bitterroot all the creators behind Bitterroot. Of course, we're doing the live Ringo Awards. Kevin Smith is our host, and Jeff Johns is our keynote speech. So it's going to be great. Go to here. I've got the banner, and I will just remind everybody, you'll forgive me, BaltimoreComicConLive.com. That's where you can watch all the action, and it begins at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow evening. But then all day Saturday, all day Sunday, to accommodate the West Coast, we're doing 11 p.m. Eastern time panels, much like our own Outer Limits show, where many of the participants are on the West Coast, and that's why we do it this time. So please watch. I think you'll all enjoy it.
And in some ways, that wasn't a tangent. I mean, we can bring that back to the Outer Limits, of course, because George Newbern played Robert Culp's son in the I Spy relaunch, and Robert Culp is, of course, one of the stalwarts of the Outer Limits.
Ian, I'm so glad you said that, Ian, because I've been wanting another reason to talk to George one-on-one, and that's a great way to do it. I have that movie. So there you go. Crab Cakes and Comics, that's what Baltimore does. Absolutely. You are 100% right, Ed. I miss the Inner Harbor. It's a great show. It's a great comic-centric show. Very happy that me and the Mainframe guys were able to work out a deal to facilitate them to do an online convention. And we're very proud of the programming that we've established. I think it's going to be great. So there you go. And I'm really glad, because I had to blow off my Star Trek ReWatch episode today, because I've been planning Baltimore all week, but knew that I would have time to do the Outer Limits, even on an episode as lame as the Borderlands.
Look, you're killing William over here. Like,
I'm sorry, buddy.
When you invited me onto the show, I'm like, I want to do the Borderlands.
You brought it, man. You did great.
It's good to have a diversity of opinion. Usually,
Yes.
John and I being mad at each other. It's good.
He's not wrong. All right, everybody, we've hit
fun.
an hour. Let us wrap up, and thank you very much for watching. As always, To the Outer Limits. Thank you very much. And next week, episode 13. What is episode 13, Gabe? I don't even know. I can look it up real fast.
Water creature.
Tourist attraction. It's Ralph Meeker is in it. It's got
yes,
Giant tadpoles.
And so I'm going to spend the entire time talking about Kiss Me Deadly.
I got no problem with that. That's outstanding. I'm always
also though. I believe it's not really like related, but homework for it would be to watch the first episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents that Ralph Meeker stars in as well, because it's called Revenge, and it's one of the best episodes of TV ever made.
cool.
Hitchcock directed it himself. Ralph Meeker and Vera Miles. It's amazing.
And isn't this episode that we're going to talk about one of the ones that after Galaxy Being, they had the the teaser for here's other upcoming episodes.
It was shot early in the schedule, but was a giant mess and didn't quite work. But mostly they went wildly over budget, and they had to somehow cobble it together and had to spend the time doing that. So I haven't watched it in a while. We'll see how it holds up. By all means, watch that. Watch Alfred Hitchcock Presents Episode 1, Revenge, and watch Kiss Me Deadly. These will all be very important. And I'll also be debuting a new amateur painting of a dead celebrity.
Well, again, we look forward to it. And everybody, thank you very much for watching To the Outer Limits. We will see you next week. We now return control of your viewing monitors to yourself, but join us next week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Enjoy, and have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.